Hello everyone, welcome to yet another session of Travelworld Virtual Summit. In this particular session, we talk about self-reliance. Well, self-reliance for me and for everyone else till very recently was about what we had heard in Hindi films. अपने दो पैरों पे खड़े होना. But then COVID-19 has changed all that. And now we have the biggest proponent of self-reliance in our Prime Minister, who has made Atmanirbhar a slogan. The tourism and hospitality industry had inculcated this trait pretty early on. But now, with the pandemic wreaking havoc on these businesses, this industry, which is made up of many entrepreneurs and first-time leaders, will have to press the reset button. And the stakeholders will have to accept that they're starting from near zero. To talk about this, we have Himmat Anand, the founder of Tree of Life Resorts and Hotels. Having left the tourism corporate world in 2007, Himmat launched the Tree of Life Resorts and Hotels in 2010, which today operates in 8 locations and 3 more are scheduled to launch soon. He recently also launched a dog story, which provides amazing getaway options for those traveling with their pets or those who are pet lovers. Welcome, Himmat, and we are glad to have you here and discuss something that's so important for the industry.
Thank you, Peyton. Thank you for the introduction. Glad to be here with all of you.
So, Himmat, what connotation does self-reliance have for you?
So, Peyton, I think without wanting to sound philosophical, I think it's a strange mix of two things. On the one hand, it means having a lot of self-confidence in your own self. And on the other hand, I believe it should be the ability to lose everything and start from zero, like you rightly said. I think a lot of us fear losing. We fear losing a job. We fear losing the salary. We fear losing a house. Some fear losing relationships. And I think as long as that fear stays with us, my belief is to stay self-reliant gets even more difficult. So I'm a firm believer. I think each of us in various stages of our lives should be really willing to lose what is precious to us. And that really brings about a feeling of self-reliance. I also believe that self-reliance, it manifests itself differently in different stages of life. When you're young, self-reliance, it comes with a dose of brashness. We are young, we feel we can conquer the world, we can do what we want. So there is a dose of brashness which correlates with individual self-reliance. As you grow older, I think self-reliance comes from a position of caution. There is a dose of caution which comes into life, and you're more cautious about the steps which you want to take. For me personally, there are a couple of things which have helped me be self-reliant. One is my dad was in the army, and coming from an army background, I think there is no better institution which can teach you about self-reliance than the forces can. So I grew up in an environment which really taught you to stand up for your own self. I then lived overseas for 10 years in Paris, London, New York, and Frankfurt. And I was sort of thrown in the deep end to fend for myself, because in every city I went, it was to start up a new venture, a new company. And that again taught me and gave me a lot of confidence and made me stand on my own feet. I also firmly believe that all of us, we should know when to leave. And when I say when to leave is we should leave when we are right on top. Because it is my belief that success cannot carry on forever. You can never continue to be on top. I think people who are self-reliant, people who have confidence in themselves, they know they can give up when they are on top before your downslide starts, and start on something else which you know you can build up from ground zero again. And for me, that has really been the charm always in all my careers, to be able to start up something from base level, working upwards. So challenge yourself, challenge consistency, take on the odds. When I started the Tree of Life, I was again told this model will not work 10 years back. People asked me to be cautious about it, but I just believed in my gut feel and carried on with it. And that's what gave me really the self-reliance. I will just, to conclude this question of yours, quote from writer in the middle 1800s it was. He was called Emerson. And Emerson wrote a lot about self-reliance. And there is one sentence of his which I'll just read out. Emerson said that unless we overtake ourselves, circumstances will overtake us. And I think this is really so apt as a concluding line for self-reliance, which I sort of follow to a large extent even today.
It's very prophetic to end self-reliance, the definition of self-reliance with Emerson. And, and you have taken us through the various stages of self-reliance in which we experience self-reliance. So when we talk about the travel and hospitality sector in particular, how important is it for stakeholders in this sector to be self-reliant?
Before I answer your question, I just want to quickly take 2 minutes and just run through something which I think has had a very dramatic impact on me in terms of self-reliance. And I talk about the recent migrant issue which really happened. And we saw hundreds and thousands of people on the road, on a road to nowhere actually. And all they had with them was what? Self-reliance in their own selves. They just wanted to get home. The government gave them up to a large extent. Society helped whatever they could. But very often, I keep still getting thoughts of those people trudging towards their end goal of home, relying only on the limited resources which they had. So for me, I think as long as we allow ourselves to let these happenings impact us, we don't close our minds to us, I think they develop our own internal feelings to a very large extent. Having said that, tourism as an industry relies on various aspects. It's not an island in its own self. If there is an economic turndown, tourism gets impacted. If there is a war somewhere, tourism gets impacted. No matter what happens, tourism in some way or the other, we've seen in the last 20, 30 years, always gets impacted for no fault of its own. And Corona is another happening where tourism has been so hugely impacted because of Corona, which is now spreading worldwide. So we are very dependent on the environment, and that is why the need to be self-reliant, I think, is even greater. I also believe that the government has really let us be on our own. And I don't want to make this into a political statement, but if you really look back, for many years now, the tourism and hospitality industry has been tom-tomming the fact that we contribute 10% to GDP, we contribute to 10% of national employment. Even with these very, very strong figures, which nobody else delivers as an industry, we were still ignored. Is this the writing on the wall for us? Because today, the circumstances being what we are, I think our contribution has now gone down to probably 3% in each of these two. So if we didn't have any clout at a 10% contribution, I don't think we were going to have any clout at a 3% contribution, honestly, anymore. I must at this stage also refer to our Prime Minister, who, when he took oath of office in his first address from the Red Fort, and I'm talking probably 8 years ago, he mentioned about tea for tourism. And we in the industry believed that he was a man who really believed in tourism and will bring it to its rightful position. Unfortunately, after that one reference, nothing really happened for us. He then went on to say two other things. He said that each Indian living inside the country must travel 15 times within the country to generate domestic tourism. I think that was only a statement. Nothing has happened on that front, although domestic tourism continues to be a huge contributor to us. And then he also said that every Indian living overseas must send one tourist to India. So that means we will automatically get 20 million tourists. We are still struggling at the so-called 10 million. So the point I'm trying to make is that don't expect any help from the government. You as industry have to take it onto yourself. You really must smell the coffee. And if after the latest theek hai comment of the finance minister, if we still haven't realized that we are really on our own, when will we? So I think we have to get out of rhetoric, we have to take a stand, and we have to sort of come to our own feet in our own manner.
I think the TK comment is ingrained in everyone's memory, especially for the tourism and hospitality stakeholders. And of course, now you've answered the question about why, how important is it to be self-reliant. But if you have to talk about without waiting for any kind of external help, how can the industry stakeholders work together towards self-reliance? Okay, you might not have the government towards your side, but how can the industry stakeholders get together and work towards this?
Right. I think the Prime Minister spoke about Atmanirbhar, and then he said, okay, now guys, go and fend for yourself. I've given you a direction, go and fend for yourself. Tourism as an industry is unfortunately self-reliant. It is reliant on various things. It is reliant on the Ministry of Aviation. It is reliant on Ministry of Transport. It is reliant on state governments for their own taxation policies. So it's reliant on society. It's reliant on cleanliness of cities. So tourism is actually an amalgamation of a whole lot of things. So it is naive for us to believe that we can manage it on our own. No, we can't. We have to interact with other industries and with other ministries to take tourism forward. Having said that, I think time has now come actually to see how much can we do on our own. And I just want to go to 2 or 3 points where I do believe we can take our destiny in our own hands. And I say this with a lot of respect for my industry colleagues. I say this with a lot of respect for the associations which guide us. But the first issue I think we are facing as an industry, which is not allowing us to become as reliant on our own selves, is that we just have too many associations going on. Every segment of tourism and hospitality has multiple associations representing it. A few years back, we said, let us create faith, and faith was formed. I must admit, I have a question mark on the deliverables of faith because other associations are still representing themselves with the government in various forms. So what's happened finally is you've got a very confused government not knowing what does this industry want out of us. And I think the example is now when we got zero from the industry, from the government, all we had to ask was for industry status. And I wish that our wish list was not 10, 20, 30 things which we asked for, which included salary and loan paybacks and all sort of stuff. All we should have pushed for was industry status, which we've been asking for the last 20 years. And honestly, that would have solved a lot of issues for hospitality and tourism had we got this one thing from the government. But well, that's water under the bridge. We'll see when it comes. So first is, I think we need to have a stronger one association or an umbrella association, which represents us more strongly. Two, I do have a question mark on the composition of our associations. If you really see all our associations, the key executive committee members are either working with multinational or very large companies, they are leaders in their own right, or they are very well-established private businessmen, entrepreneurs who've created their own companies. Now, I find it very hard to believe that anybody in that position, knowing what is at stake for him on a personal level, is going to confront ministry government in a strong manner, because you yourself have a lot to lose. So the suggestion always which has been going around is, can we appoint a neutral CEO for our industry? Let that CEO be the front face to tackle industry up front without anything to lose, and the associations back him up. This has been discussed for a long time. We've unfortunately got nowhere on this. I also believe that our associations, to a large extent, are old wine in new bottles. We have not allowed the younger generation to come in to the extent we should. And believe me, we have an amazing younger generation waiting in the line to be given the opportunity to change our thought process, to change how we work. But elections being what they are, till the time we do not reserve probably 2 seats in the committees for the youngsters, and then let them fight the elections, but making sure 2 seats are reserved for them, I think we need to change the outlook of what our associations look like. I'm not putting all fault on the associations. I think there is much more to do. We need to look at a corpus fund. We've been talking about a corpus fund for a long time. Are each of us willing to contribute regularly to this corpus fund so we don't have to go with a bowl to the ministry every time money is needed? Because to run any industry, you do need money. So that is where I think we can look at the starting point and see how we can sort of keep our destiny in our own hands.
You kind of answered my next question, Himmat, because you've raised the concerns and you've told me how can we address it. But if I have to ask you, what are the immediate concerns that tourism and hospitality stakeholders should address, the immediate ones right now, considering the COVID situation, and how can they change the narrative?
So, yeah, I think the industry is in crisis. There is no doubt in that. And from what I've been hearing and from what I've been reading, as far as hospitality and tourism are concerned, maybe 40% will go under, and you'll only have 50-60% going through this whole corona crisis. I also do believe that corona is not here to stay forever, and we must keep that in mind. This is something we'll have to live with, and therefore we must plan our future steps accordingly. So for me, I think there are three main issues which concern industry today. One, and I'm just talking about hospitality for the moment, a lot of hospitality hotel projects are built on loans. These loans have to be paid back. They can only be paid back if there is cash flow. So one, I think, which the industry will have to address, how do we pay back the loans to the banks where our properties are mortgaged? And I think only those people which have deep pockets or which have the ability to sustain themselves for the next 2 years will come out of this. So adjustments of loans is the first thing. We requested the government for this, nothing happened. The second critical thing is cash flow. I think for hotels, occupancies is not going to be really the issue right now. The getting in business at any rate is what is going to really count for us right now. So keeping cash flow going is the second key concern which the industry has. The third key issue is our staffing. We've laid off people or put people on leave without pay by the hundreds of thousands of people. And it is a humongous number which is being spread around as to how many millions of jobs will be lost. At these times, my belief is I think industry must communicate very openly with their teams. They've stood by you. Let's not please say something and do something else. Let's have very clear communication guidelines. These are very difficult times. There will be layoffs. There will be salary cuts. Let's not fool each other. And there'll be very drastic layoffs and salary cuts. So I think let's not try and camouflage the situation. Let us express it, and let us accept it as it is. So, and let us see how can we retain the people at whatever stage. Or as far as the employees are concerned, I think for them to get nasty on social media and stuff like that is not going to work, because this reflects poorly on you. Please do keep in mind that today, when you apply for a job, people are not looking at your resume so much. They are looking at how do you conduct yourself on social media. Because for me, social media is actually a true picture of individuals. So when they see all this happening on social media, you actually stand a poor chance of coming back into mainstream. So I would think, yeah, these are the three main challenges which we have. We also have to look at pricing. I mean, there are two thought processes. There is one thought process which says, don't drop pricing, let it carry on the way it was pre-COVID. My thought process is, you have job cuts, you have salaries which are being reduced, you have businesses which are not doing well. It is for us as industry now to activate demand. And if we say that the domestic market is the primary one which is going to save us, we know the domestic market is very price conscious. Let us please start with some decent introductory offers. And then as and when business picks up, you can come back to your original pricing levels. But I think it is naive to think in today's day and age that you will be able to sell on pricing which you sold pre-COVID. I doubt it's going to work.
Thank you very much, Himmat. And that was indeed an insight into what the industry is going through right now. Now that there has been a calibrated resumption of domestic air services and the hospitality units are also opening their doors, how are the hospitality and tourism stakeholders reacting to the post-COVID scenario?
It's a known fact, and all of us have been stating it ever so often, that the driving leisure holidays, domestic holidays are the first ones which will take off. I must admit, 1 month back, I was pretty optimistic that by early July, it'll have a reasonable takeoff. The feel I'm getting now is there is still caution in the traveler's mind. I don't think he's going to travel that easily. So we've had a trickle happening in July, but is it as quick as I thought it would be? No. So I guess it's going to take August, September by the time things sort of settle in. One of the reasons, Peden, has been that, our TV channels, and again, I'm not trying to point fingers at the TV channels, but when 24/7, you continue showing the death rate rises, the number of infections rising, India has come from number 10 to 6 to 4. You are creating a fear psychosis in the mind of the public. I mean, please let us accept the fact that we are a population of 1.3 billion. We are going to be at number one in terms of infection. I think we will overtake the United States. It's a matter of time. China will never disclose its figures. So I think we as a country must accept the fact that yes, because of our population, because of our hygiene and living conditions, unfortunately, we are going to be hit badly. So there should be no hype and hysteria created for a logical fact. Look at the recovery rate. Our recovery rate is more than 50%. Some might. So I think there is a positivity which we have to spread around, which has not been done, which is now resulting even in people being cautious of going to office, forget traveling. Offices are opened, but there are very, very few people actually still going to work. So my take now is when I look at as it stands today, I think August, September is when it's going to start. By October, things in the domestic leisure front will definitely settle down. I also am of the opinion that, we've been into this COVID thing only 5 months. We still don't know what it's all about. Medicine is still trying to figure out what is the vaccine, what is to be done. But unfortunately, we in the industry have gone to some very extreme steps. And I'm already hearing seminars and thought processes where they are talking about changing the structure of hotels in the future, where they are talking about going totally contactless, where they're talking about menus going to be digital and no longer the traditional menus we are so used to. These are, for me, I think, overreactions of the industry. Because please bear in mind, Corona is here to stay. Within 6, 8 months, 10 months, there is going to be a vaccine found, and we will come out of this. So imagine all the extreme measures we are taking today, which will actually, in my opinion, not be valid 10 months, 1 year from now. So let us please go phase by phase. And I'm not for once saying safety is not important. Safety is the most important thing right now. But please, let us not create a scare. Let us not create a hype. We must accept the fact that we are a feel-good industry. When a guest comes to us in our four walls, he wants to forget the muck which is happening outside. And it is our job then to find that balance between hospital and hospitality. It is our job to keep him safe, but make sure that he has a good time. So my caution in this whole thing is safety is important, but please let's not over exaggerate the whole thing. I mean, let us look at 9/11 when that happened. What did it really leave us with as an industry, as the hospitality industry? Today, you have that at the gate. When you drive in, the car is checked. In some cases, there is a doggy which goes around trying to sniff out something. It stops there. Then you go to the entrance to the reception. You go through metal detectors. And inside, there are CCTV cameras in public areas. So 9/11 really left us with these three takeaways. It is hence also my firm belief that after Corona, there will again be just a few takeaways like this, which we'll have to live with, which will not change our life. I don't want to go into digital stuff. I don't want to go into contactless stuff. It may be good for the corporate world, but in the leisure business, and India has a lot of leisure activity happening, especially in the domestic market, I don't think the clients will be very happy. I mean, I've heard talk of putting vending machines in the corridors of five-star hotels, which will vend food and vend drinks. No, the leisure client will not accept this. I'm sorry. He comes to you for a very different feeling. It may work in the corporate world, but I doubt it's going to really work in the leisure segment. So yeah, these are my thoughts of going forward. The inbound industry is going to be very badly hit. I really don't see inbound coming back fully by winter of 2021. You will have a slow income intake happening in January, February. Then you come into the summer months. So inbound really, unfortunately, has a long way to go. My take on outbound is hopefully outbound will start by January, February of next year in a small way. I doubt anything is going to happen before that. So yeah, that's really, nobody can say for sure. These are only things which one can sort of go on gut feel, go on figures, and go on what's happening in the market.
That's what I think is needed right now. And that's the kind of insight that we need. And that's the kind of, plain speaking that we need, because we can't be sugarcoating the whole, the coronavirus thing right now. But Himmat, I just wanted to ask you, since you run a boutique chain of properties, and everybody has been talking about digital and contactless. Is it possible to go completely digital and contactless in the hospitality industry where human touch is so essential?
Peden, let me just quickly touch on one more thing before I answer you. I just missed out on the safety aspect. I've seen a lot of videos of hotels. I've seen a lot of communications from hotels informing guests all what they are doing for the safety of the guest, which is very good. One thing which I really find missing is, and this is typically Atithi Devo Bhava, where the guest is God. And for us in the Indian hospitality industry, the guest can never be wrong. And we give them a leeway, which I think is a bit too much at times, because we're either afraid of losing their business or we are afraid they'll write a bad review about us. So we let them actually do what they want. Not in one communication have I seen what is the responsibility of the guest towards my establishment. So just like I, as a hotelier, have a responsibility towards you, you as a guest also have a responsibility towards my establishment and towards my staff working there. So I think it is very important for us to educate the guest on their do's and don'ts also. And please hold them accountable when they don't follow, because there are lives at stakes actually when you look at it. So it's not as if I as a hotelier have 100% responsibility for your safety. You as a guest also please have certain responsibilities towards me. I think again we have to segregate this into two parts. One shoe will not fit all sizes. And if I were to divide this, I would divide this in the corporate segment and in the leisure segment. I am willing to concede a lot of what you say in the corporate segment, where it is already happening globally, where technology is what they want. The youngsters are very tuned to technology. So contactless to some extent or to a large extent, I possibly can believe can happen in the corporate segment. There is a report which I read that by the time 2028 happens, from the time you get off your flight, you check into your hotel, you check out and you board your flight, you may actually come across only 3 or 4 people. Now, how much of a reality that will be, time will tell us. But that is what they are predicting will happen. Now, let's go over to the leisure segment. Social media has already made us very aloof as people. And that is why I don't understand this term social distancing. There is no such thing as social distancing. Human beings are social animals. We cannot do without each other. For me, the correct term, honestly, to be used is physical distancing, because we are being asked to say 3 feet, 4 feet, 6 feet away from people. It has got nothing to do with social interaction. So I think we should firstly in the industry change this term to call it physical distancing, because in hospitality, you cannot have social distancing really. So that's one part of the story. Coming back to what I was saying, in the leisure world, given that social media is isolating us so much, I think people coming for a holiday will want a balance. So they don't want overbearing hospitality. They want you to be in the background, but still as guests, they want you to ascertain their needs. So I don't believe that being contactless, being digital menus and stuff like that can go in the leisure business. Because today, Payden, what is leisure all about? It is no longer about selling a room. Today, leisure is about weaving a story. It is about creating an experience. I cannot, honestly, do a contactless story. I cannot do a story on an iPad. I have to sit with you. I have to make you touch, feel, experience, go out, go and see the village, go and see the countryside, go and see the wildlife. This cannot be contactless. So, yes, that's why I say I don't think we're doing the right thing by creating this paranoia about Corona that forever now we will have contactless. In fact, one hotel chain says we don't want to have receptions anymore. No, I don't. I'm sorry, you may have an opinion, but I don't believe in this. Hospitality is hospitality. I'm already wondering the smile which you talk about the hotel, it's already behind the mask. So I want to see a time happening when I can again welcome you with that smile. That is what I'm all about. And that mask is putting a barrier between me and you. And I want that to go as soon as I can. Because now I think when you smile, the smile will be seen by the wrinkles around your eyes, not on your lips anymore. And is that what we really want in hospitality? No, that's not what we want.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Himmat. In your typical calling a spade manner, I think you're the one of the most forward-thinking people, and of course, you can really call a spade a spade. And we hope that our audience today have had many takeaways from the observations that you've made and the insights that you've shared. Thank you everyone for being with us, and do stay tuned as there's more to come.